I'm sitting here trying to come up with some ideas on what I want to do for the next how-to video, and look what comes across my email. 2 batteries, 5 amp hour for less than $80? Got me thinking, I think we're gonna head over to Harbor Freight and pick these bad boys up with a charger. I've been wanting to like take my Humminbird off of a Lithium that I'm already on and see if we can't wire this up directly to the Humminbird. Let's see if it works. Roll that intro. Bauer battery packs in hand. Let's get back over to the boat and let's get them installed and see if this thing powers a Humminbird transducer. Stay tuned. So it's the next day. I went over to my building where I have the boat stored, and I noticed, I got to thinking, I'm like, hold on, this is a 12-volt fish finder, but yet this is a 20-volt battery. I'm having some allergies today.
Why did God make ragweed?
Why? So I get to searching. I obviously don't want to blow up my my nice Humminbird, so I ended up getting on eBay and I found a down converter that takes a 20-volt system and converts it down to a 12-volt so that it can be accepted. So I'm gonna have to wait for that. This is a to be continued video. Stand by. Now the little converter that I got here that takes the 20 volt down to 12 volt actually comes with a Dewalt accepting battery. Now can you buy a Dewalt battery and this just clicks in and it's perfectly smooth? Yes. Dewalt batteries on the other hand are very, very pricey. So I went with a Bauer system, which ironically has the same exact tab set up where the hot location and neutral location of the little tabs are on the battery in the exact same spot. The only difference is on this little receiver, you have to carve out a little bit of this little clamp because it hits the body of the battery.
Let me show you.
So when I slide that in, see that? It doesn't want to click because it's hitting this little body right here on the battery. So all we have to do is carve out a little bit of this with like a little Dremel tool, or even a knife is fine, like a razor blade, and carve out a little bit of that so this will then click in and we'll accept those 2 tabs where they need to go on the battery. Now you can also go on eBay or Amazon or even some Etsy pages or so, and there are folks that 3D print these that are already ready and ready to rock and roll, where you can literally just click these right in. They also have little mounting holes on these, and it already comes with the wire ready to rock and roll. You don't have to carve anything out on this occasion. You just literally click it in, it clicks, it's ready, it's made for the Bauer battery. But keep in mind that's an additional expense. So if you're trying to do it on the cheap, probably want to carve out that one that's made for Dewalt.
It'll still work.
Now something else that you want to do that I didn't put in that diagram is you want to get yourself an inline fuse. You can get these at AutoZone or any auto supply. I just got mine on Amazon. Again, I can put the link in the description below as well. Now they come all one loop, and what you want to do is kind of clip it and then put it in line in with the hot side, or the hot wire, the red wire of this whole operation before it hits the battery. That way if anything goes awry, maybe water in there, it shorts out, it's gonna short out that fuse and not your head unit.
That's expensive.
Now what size fuse should we use, right? I got a bunch to choose from here. I went on to Humminbird's website and they actually have a help page and it's titled Fuse Size, Power Draw, and Cable Extension Requirements. It's a full table of all of their products. I'm sure other makes have the same exact and will tell you the exact size fuse that you need for your application. I'm gonna scroll down here to Helix 9 because that's what I'm trying to power. Now, keep in mind also that if you don't have one of these wire strippers and a roll of tape, that you're gonna wanna get some of that too. That's another expense. Add that to the kitty. So, is there a better way to do this? Yes, like I said earlier, with the Dremel tool would be probably ideal, but I'm trying to show you guys how to do it the cheapest way possible. So what I did is I just grabbed a razor blade, I put a little piece of tape on there so it wasn't hurting my fingers, and then all I did was start like carving a line, a kind of guideline where I want around that area to be chiseled out. Remember, this is the Dewalt. It does have the same tab location, but it won't go all the way on the Bauer battery, which is the cheaper battery, without carving this section out. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, do me a huge favor and comment below, battery. We appreciate you watching. Back to the video. So I'll show you what I did. I literally just kind of scribed a line on top and on the side, and then used my pliers, the same pair of pliers, to pick it apart. Like literally just kind of break it out. Again, is that the sexiest way to do it?
No.
Is it the cheapest?
Probably.
You can clean that up too. Just get in there with a razor blade and start carving at it, and you can get right in there with it. So do you see what I mean there? I went in there and just kind of cleaned it up with the razor blade. Be careful, but I actually just carved it out real nice and smooth, and it looks good. Let's do the other side. And all I'm doing here is I'm just literally just running the razor blade over the same line that I'm doing and kind of scoring it as deep as I can into that plastic so that it gives me a nice little clean break line when I'm giving it some stress with those pliers. Also, I will say that these pliers are not the best for this, but again,
Trying to keep it cheap.
you know, these pliers are probably intended on just bending wire and making them acceptable for putting in like a reciprocal box or something in wiring.
I'm not prying on a piece of plastic.
Now we have both sides of that carved out. There's a nice open notch on both sides. Slide it over the battery, give it a good push.
Bada bing, bada boom, baby. We're in business.
Now remember, it's coming out of the battery into this down converter, out of the down converter, which is the black and yellow wire. The yellow, in this case, let me check, has a nice little diagram back here too. It tells you that the yellow is in fact the positive. The black is the negative. Now remember, before we hit our head unit, we're gonna wanna use this inline fuse on the hot side. I like to kind of pinch it in the middle, almost as perfect as you can in the middle there, and give it a nice little bada bing, bada boom. Okay, now we got it split. We want to splice or take off a little bit of that sheathing or the kind of shield of the wire, and we can do that with the same exact plier that we just used. After you strip the wire, give her a little twist on the end. That's an individual strand wire, so you want to make it nice and tight and compact. You can spin it up there. If you have a soldering iron and some solder, you could do what's called tinning, which you can literally just put a little bit of solder on this to keep it all one uniform wire now at the end.
We're doing it on the cheap. We're gonna roll with it.
Okay, now, in the kit that you get with the down converter, they give you this fancy little doodah here. All this is like a little wire connector. So it has like a real easy little system. You lift the little switch there, you stick your wire in, you flip the switch down, and it connects the orange wire with the orange wire on the opposing side, and vice versa. So it's just a way to connect two wires together without having to solder or use tape or spinning or anything like that. Really cool. So in this case, because orange is more of a hotter color, I'm gonna use that as my hot. All I'm doing is sticking that wire in the orange, flipping the switch down, and it's nice and snug. Pretty neat little system. Remember, we're putting that fuse on next. Put that in the opposing side, flip the switch, now they're connected.
Same thing for the negative, don't forget.
That's important.
Now on most head units, you have two wires, a hot and a cold. That's all you got. You got a hot and neutral. And so on the Humminbird, it looks just like this. If you have the Helix models, they actually have them in a big old brick where it has multiple cords that are arranged and it clicks in the back all at once. In this case, I just took that piece apart. I just got the power cord independently out because that's what I'm working on right now. And literally all it is just a hot, cold, black, red wire. There it is. I'm gonna open that up just a little bit more so that it's a little more wire sticking out than just that little bit. Keep in mind too that when you're doing this, it's important to see what gauge wire the factory also supplies so that you're kind of matching that same gauge of wire. Certain gauge wire carries certain voltages better and amperage better than others. You don't wanna underpick the wrong size of wire and then burn out the wiring in your bow. That would suck. In this case, because I'm not putting an inline fuse on the cold side or the neutral, I'm putting it only on the hot end. I'm just gonna stick this wire, the neutral side, directly into the plug that goes to the back of the head unit, right into that little switch doohickey that we just showed you earlier. Just like that. Now all we have to do is make a connection from the other end of that fuse box into that hot wire that connects to the back of our head unit. Now what I would do is spend the extra buck and get yourself a nice little connector where it, you know, has, even if it's just a crimp connector where you can just put the two wires in and crimp both sides, then you can tape around it. It makes it much more clean presentation than just taking two wires together and twisting them.
You get it.
But in this case, because we're going the cheapest possible means with the safest application,
We're just gonna twist it on there, baby, and see.
remember this is comparison. Cheapest versus going something like MillerTech. Now we can all agree that that's pretty tight. That looks like a nice good twist. You could certainly solder that again, but because of the means of trying to keep this as cheap as possible, we're just gonna throw a nice piece of this delicious electrical tape. Little Little tip too, you can also take a lighter and kind of melt the tape of this, being very careful, and it will get you more of a snug kind of seat on the rubber tape. Be careful not to burn yourself or other pieces. Now we can go back and tape the other connections that we made, even with that fancy snappy doohickey my bobber, just so there's no chance of like water or something getting in there and starting corrosion or any problems. There we go, that's good and taped. Now we got our inline fuse loop right there, ready to rock and roll. Throw a fuse in, let's see how it works. And the Helix 9 calls for a 5 amp fuse, which is this orange one. I'm gonna use that. All I'm doing is inserting that fuse into the fuse housing, and it clicks right in. This is a waterproof housing too, so it flips over and it will enclose that fuse. It'll click right in to kind of make a waterproof tight seal. I'd recommend getting this kind.
Link in description.
Now, something that I'm gonna do, and I'd recommend you do also, if you don't have one, it's worth the extra $5 or $6, or sometimes Harbor Freight even has these free with a little coupon. But it's a multimeter. You wanna go over to like 20 volt DC and just check the wiring to make sure that you're in fact getting 12 volts. You don't wanna blow your head unit up. And hallelujah, praise Jesus, I in fact am getting 12. The little minute over, don't worry about that. Moment of truth, I just plugged it in the back of the head unit. We're gonna try this baby out. Here we go. Power on. We are now powering a Humminbird Helix 9 with a Bauer battery from Harbor Freight. Now we know it works. Is it consistent? How long does it last? Does it last just as long as a MillerTech or some other lithium? I doubt not, but we're gonna test it out in the next videos to come. Stay tuned. So you're asking the right questions. Is it just as good? Is the price worth it? I don't know. We're about to test it out together. I hope you find value in this little multi-video series. We'll probably do another 2 after this one. Stay tuned for the next one. We're gonna throw this baby on a boat and give it a true test. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you have any additional ideas or tips, go ahead and share those below. A signature series bait line that we're about to launch, you can click this video right here. If you want to see other how-tos, check out our playlist right there. If you are interested at all in subscribing, we'd love to have you a part of the movement. You can do so by clicking that little circle right there. Be sure to smash that thumbs up and ring the notification bell so you're getting all those juicy notifications. Share with your favorite friend. We appreciate you. We will see you on the next one. Woo!